So, that's the first time I've heard, that global vision statement's been around for a while, but that's the first time I've heard it out loud in over a decade. Is it me, or did it just sort of shift the energy in the room? Just hearing those words actually articulate what a world that works for everyone could look like and feel like. And for me, that's the power of what's happening this year, is it's moving it into actual words that we're going to be talking about, because we know that creation begins with language, with logos, with the word. God created through the word. And so as we speak these words out into creation as collective communities all over the country and in the world, that we are actually bringing something into form that's never been here before. So this is a really powerful time. We're going to put the Global Vision Statement on our website so you will have access to it. And I invite you to go and read it, print it out for yourself, begin talking about it with your friends or in your community and your family. Bring these words alive, because it's in talking about it that we bring that energy alive into form. Before we talk about the Global Heart Vision Statement, actually it's called the Global, for some reason they took heart out of it, so now it's the Global Vision Statement. I want to first talk about the reading with Joel Goldsmith, which is that without God, none of these things are real. Because God, the infinite, eternal life intelligence of the universe, is that which is never changing. And so that which is real has to arise out of that God presence. And so it arises out of God presence to direct awareness that we have of God. In that same book, in that same area of the reading today, Goldsmith says, God is everywhere present, but where it goes unrecognized, it's as if it's not even there. So we can say God is all there is. There's one power, one presence in, through, and as, no separation, and as all creation, yet never absorbed by that creation. So it is all life. It is not just all this planet. It's all the galaxies upon galaxies and billions of stars, which is mind-blowing. It is all of that and beyond all of that. But that is just theory, and it's not an actual living truth until we consciously acknowledge and bring that forth. And so why I love that verse, which I now know Jack wrote. What was it about the one person, one love, or what was that? It takes one person, or?
It starts with one person who chooses to love, and then they open their heart and give it away.
I mean, it's so perfect. Like, that's a great sermon. Jack's getting up next week. Okay. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, how intimate are we with this pure unconditional love? How good is our God? How good is our source? We say the words, but do we really feel that goodness, the infinite goodness, the vastness of this goodness in our life? Do we feel this love in a tangible way in our life? Because everything has to start with us. And so what we want to look at and discover is this love actually activated in my life? If I'm not bringing awareness to it, it's as if it's not there at all. That I have to take responsibility for in this conversation. See, when we're even in conversations with someone, we're immediately in our human self. Am I giving them what they want? Am I hearing them? Am I inspiring them? Am I arguing with them to get them closer to the truth? Or whatever that conversation entails, we can go right into our human mind. It's about me, my ego talking to their ego. If we just start bringing into our awareness, do I know that I'm completely loved in this moment? Do I know they're completely loved? Just to start asking ourselves, when I'm eating, do I know I'm completely loved in this moment? When I'm doing any mundane task, do I know that I'm completely loved in this moment? When I'm working on a big issue, do I know that I'm completely loved in this moment? To constantly bring our awareness and attention back to the infinite love of the universe, and to really start feeling tangibly the love of the universe, alive and awake as us. So my intention for this community, so the way vision works, visions are different than goals. With goals, we can see it, we can say, here's my goal, and often we can say, here are steps that I can take to achieve my goal, right? It's tangible. And usually the reason why we can do that is because even if I haven't reached my goal, other people have, and we know the steps that they took to achieve it. A vision is different. A vision, first of all, is rarely can be done in a year. So even as we're talking about this, it's not saying we're going to achieve this in a year. I've never moved or embodied a vision been less than 12 years, and I'm still working on a vision that I had in 2001, and it's been way over 12 years, and I'm still working on it. So visions are something that we can't say, here are the steps. Here's a nice little trail of how to fulfill that. It's an idea that has no past precedent. We haven't seen it before in our own life, and we're not quite sure how to get there. When we read that vision of a world that works for everyone, this earth has never worked that way before. We have nothing to go on. We have no past precedent to lean on and say, this is how it looks. We don't know how we're going to get there. We do not know the how. We do not know the steps. So the way a vision works is when we see a vision that's so big, that's so beyond what we've experienced before, what we do is we keep our awareness on that vision, on that possibility. We keep bringing our attention back to what is that vision, and we allow it to ask of us moment by moment, what do I need to do today to embody that vision? That means I might not get to being that vision for 12 years, but I can do what I can do today. So for those of you who have ever done the visioning process, the key to the visioning process, we ask what is God's vision or the love intelligence or life's vision for our life. But the key to it is, what is my growth today? Because that's something I can do something about. And so for me, with this vision, we have this, to read that vision statement, and we've known we're going to do this as a yearly theme September. So it's been at work. It's been chugging away inside of me since September. What I think about it, there's a lot in there. And then I have to say, well, do I think it's even possible? Do I think this is even literally possible? So that's one of the things we're going to be looking at as we go through it specifically. Do we believe these things are possible? Because it's a world where there's not so much duality. There's not as much duality as there is now between the dark and the light. That's beginning to get healed. You can't have a world that works for everyone with that really extreme duality. Do I think that's possible? Earth has always had the positive and negative poles, dark and the light, yin and the yang. Do I think it's possible to transcend that as a planet? So as we're with that, and we keep bringing ourselves back to this vision that can seem almost impossible, what is mine to do today about this vision? And so for us as a community, where I'm going to go with this is we're going to be talking about it every week, but the thing you're going to get really bored with me is I think the way this vision gets fulfilled is through love. For me, that's something we can work on today and every day. Because I do believe in that the Corinthian statement resonates as truth for me, that we can have everything. Everything can be working right. We can have all the money we want, all the creativity we want, all the right relationships, all the health that we want, but without love, it's as if we have nothing. It's what Joel Goldsmith was saying in the reading, that we need to have God. God first and foremost, seek first the kingdom of God. And for me, God is love. Those two things are synonymous for myself. I'm not saying that is absolute truth. I'm saying for my experience, that's what God is. For me, is love. And so what I need to do is to become more loving with myself, with other people, with life itself, less judgmental, less creating borders of separation of right and wrong, good and bad, all the dualities that we like to do as human beings in the relative form. We're constantly comparing. That's what I'm saying about the conversation. We're in the realm of relativity. Can we bring the absolute into a conversation, into very human activities, into our most human of activities? Can we bring this absolute love? So my intention for our community, as a community, that's why I was talking about at the end of the year, let's talk about it. Like we set these high intentions at the beginning of the year, and then to revisit it at the end of the year, we missed that concluding part. Because what I'd like to see by the last Sunday in December 2016 is that this community actually experiences the absolute love at a higher vibrational than we are now. That we actually are starting to bring, so what I was saying, I want to bring it up over and over and over. Repetition, repetition. Habit is created by repetition. And habit is so powerful because we become that. That habit defines us. I've mentioned before when I was doing a Who Am I meditation for weeks, I suddenly was popped out of my body and just looked. I'm just habit patterns. And so is my habit patterns in alignment with pure unconditional love? Are my automatic habit patterns to love? Is that my first reaction, is to love without condition? Is my first reaction when I do something stupid or I say something that I really regret saying, and I may be the only one who does that, but I just like cringe. I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. Can I respond in love to myself and say, okay, I wish I hadn't said that, but I know my heart is love. Can I forgive myself and then maybe make reparations or whatever I need to do to make reparations? But can my first response be love? One of my favorite examples of this, and I used to talk about him more at the beginning of when we started this community, but I haven't talked with him in a while, so most of you may not have heard the story, is Reverend Nirvana Gale really practiced pure unconditional love. And he lived it all the time. Sometimes people didn't, he has a big personality, and sometimes people don't like big personality. I never once saw him respond in anger or judgment back. He didn't defend himself with people who judged him. He just loved them. He just stayed in love. So one day he was walking through the hood, as he would say, and a young boy came up, 14 or 15 years old, and put a gun right in his chest and said, hand over your wallet. His first reaction was to open his arms and say, brother, what are you doing? I love you. His first reaction when a gun is stuck in his chest, brother, I love you. What are you doing? I see you. And the young man started crying and dropped his gun, and they had a healing conversation. Because those words, when you first react with love, and that's your first instinct, that's not conceptual love. That's real love. That is someone whose heart stays open regardless of circumstances and situations. We find so many reasons why we think there's a reason to shut our hearts down. Justified, as Barbara Mary Mall used to say, one of my teachers used to say, we have this justified anger, this righteous indignation. And yet I look at someone like Gandhi. When I read his autobiography, he wanted the British Empire out of India. He was tired of how they used power in India. And yet when he wrote them a letter, it wasn't full of anger and vitriol and hate. Like, you imperialist pigs, why are you in our country? It was like, I've learned so much from the British Empire. There's so many good qualities that I've learned and accepted from you, but the way you're behaving in our country is not acceptable. But it was amazing, the respect that came from it. There was no place for hatred in his heart, though he was very clear they needed to leave his country. So there's a difference between healthy boundaries, this is not okay, and closing our hearts. When do we feel justified in closing our hearts to ourself, which we're the first person we shut out of our heart usually, or to other people? In our past, in our present, in our government, sometimes we're like, oh, I have nothing out here, but we'll judge a ton of people who are far away because almost that's safer. Where is it that you can accept for yourself not to be in a place of unconditional love? Where can I don't mean you as if I don't do that. I do it too. And that's the intention, because we cannot have a world that works for everyone if we are not in a place of unconditional love. A world that works for everyone, all those beautiful things that we heard that Emily read this morning, cannot happen if we have a closed down heart. Because then we're just doing the external, we're doing the shell of it, we're doing it to look good or for whatever reason, but without love, it doesn't get sustained. It's not a whole new way of being, because what this vision is asking of us is not just fixing things. It's not just about fixing. There are definitely social justice things that need to be shifted within our government and how things are happening, but just fixing them out there does not shift us into a heavenly world, a world of unconditional love. What shifts us is to live from love. Pure unconditional love. That's an entirely different way of being. And if we are going to bring heaven on earth, just imagine what heaven is. See, I've had to look at this whole idea of duality, because in so many teachings, they say, well, that's life, the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative. And I started thinking, well, heaven doesn't really have that duality. I don't think of, on the opposite, in heaven, I don't think, well, there are constantly pushing away these negative forces that are also coming at them or integrating the dark side. There is no dark side. Not only when I picture heaven, but when I read all these near-death experiences, they're full of light. That means people are still learning, though. It's not like they've achieved everything when we move to the other side of the veil, but it's done from a place of light. It's done a place from love. There's still things that I need to learn. So in that mission statement, you'll notice or vision statement, it says where forgiveness is the norm. That means there's things still to be forgiven. Where we evolve in social activity, there's still things that need to be improved, but it's the place from which we are doing everything. And my idea in heaven is things still need to be improved. We still need to grow, but it's the place from which all of it's coming. And I think the sense that we have when we say heaven is that everything is coming from love. That if we picture what heaven is like, we feel that we are 100% supported by not just the light, but these energy beings that are surrounding us. That everything is saying yes to our growth, to our unfoldment. And to me, that's what unconditional love is. That we feel like everything in this universe is out for our highest good. Everything is supporting us in our growth into becoming, if we set that intention to becoming unconditional love, everything in this universe is saying yes to that. So my invitation this week and for all year, we're just going to keep returning to this place. We're going to go through all of it, the vision statement, but at the same time, keep asking ourselves, where am I in this? Where am I as a loving being in this? How intimate is love in my life? How intimate am I with the source of my life, with the love of my life, in every area of my life? So we ask ourselves, what would it look like for me to, what would not even look like, because we can separate. What does it feel like? What would it feel like for me to wake up and feel like I'm in heaven every single day? What does that feel like? What would it feel like to wake up and just say, I'm in heaven right today? What would it feel like to feel completely, passionately, intimately loved? A love that isn't just passive. It's just not the isness of love. A love that is participating in every area of my life. It knows everything about me. It knows all about my pain and my suffering. It knows all my limitations, my weaknesses. And it's actively participating in everything and happening in the midst of that. It's not when I fix it, then I know love. In the midst of that darkness, there's the love. In the midst of even the joy, there's the love. What would my life feel like if my life was immersed in love? I was just washed with love. Everywhere was love. I oozed love. I felt love. I was in dialogue. Everything was love. For me, that's what heaven would feel like. That's what heaven would feel like, to wake up every day in heaven. So that's the invitation, not just for this week, but for the whole year, because that's how we're going to make a world that works for everyone, for all of us to be oozing love for ourselves, oozing love for ourselves, for other people, in the darkest of times. When are the stories that inspire us the most? It's when people are in those dark times, like Eddie Hillesman in the Holocaust. She had a choice to go into Auschwitz. She didn't have to, but she chose to, because she felt she had a lot to give. She was in the midst of the suffering, and yet there were moments, in the past I've read some from her book, moments where she experienced God's undescribable, infinite love and joy in the midst of Auschwitz, where she ended up dying and being killed. And yet even there, she found love. That is our job this year for all of us, to have no excuses. No excuses. That love has to be the cornerstone and the essence of our life. And as we are working on this as a community and knowing that other communities are doing it, I do believe that we can go through quantum shift, a quantum leap into another reality that we have not seen before. I don't know if it's going to happen in a year. I am a little skeptical on that one. But I do think big shifts can happen in collective consciousness. I've mentioned before, when I was a kid, I was in high school, I went through an existential crisis because I knew one person couldn't change it. You know, we've had Jesus, we've had Gandhi, we've had Martin Luther King, we've had Mother Teresa, we've had all these brilliant singular leaders, and there's still just as much pain, there's still this duality, as much duality as there's ever been. The duality has not gone away. They've fixed certain things externally, but the duality still exists. And for me, the shift that we're talking about is even moving away from this, it has to be dualistic. That's what this earth is. We're dualistic, we're good, we're dark and we're light, we're the yin and the yang, we're the positive and the negative, and that's it. That's just what earth is. That's what has to start to shift. And one person can't do it. It's collective group. Finally came to the realization that no singular person can do this, that this is requiring a group of a lot of people. A group of a lot of people, sorry. You know what I mean. A lot of people. And then when I was in 1991, I was taking a world's religions class, and Hillary Anderson was the teacher, and she loved the I Ching or I Ching, and she threw the dice, and we asked the question, what is the future of New Thought? And the answer was send armies marching. Now, I grew up in a political family where I read a lot of books about war. And the thing that always amazed me about war is how many people were in an army. I mean, thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands upon tens of thousands upon. And I remember just sitting there because I'd be reading it, and I would sit and try to imagine that many people. And that's only on one side. Then there's the people on the other side. And so when it said send armies marching, when I heard that in 1991, that was New Thought's goal, I thought, this isn't just a little movement. If we're going to shift, it's going to take hundreds of thousands of people to do it. And it is like a magnetic force. It's not everybody. You get the majority. The tipping point is you get the majority and everyone else starts to follow. So we don't have to get everybody, but we have to get a significant group of people who are doing this work with us. And that's what's beginning to happen. We have the Unify movement. There's the global movement. There's all these movements that are getting the collective energy going. And now Centers for Spiritual Living is joining that with the collective energy of we're here to be a place of love. We're not going to buy into the story of this planet Earth anymore. Yes, we've never heard this story before. We've never heard a story about Earth that didn't include duality. It's a new story, but it's a new story we have to tell, and we start with ourselves. Everyone in this room, you have a calling. Today we have a magnificent workshop here today with Kim about crafting your life. Take this into that and really tangibly start creating through our words, through our language, this new reality for our life first and foremost. Do you think it's possible to really know and feel and experience total immersion in love? That by the end of 2016, you come into this community and it just oozes love. I gotta just find another word. Love, radiates love. What? Why? Ooze is good? We just ooze love. That when people come in, it's an actual experience because of the work that we're doing, because of the work that we're going to be doing every single week, that we come here is to become, are you loving yourself? At the end of the day, you ask yourself, how much did I love myself today? How much did I love every part of my day? Did I love my conversations? Did I love the choices that I make? Can I love myself in spite of the choices I wish I had made? Do I go first to judgment of myself, or do I go first by love? We need to make this a habit every single day, every week of the year, every month of the year, until we get to a place where love is our habit, where any violence like a gun coming at our chest, our first reaction is, I love